Welcome into WagerTalk TV. I am Drew Martin, joined by Brian Leonard and Kevin Dolan of WagerTalk.com as we're talking some college football on Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific kick here, Kevin. We get BYU at Oregon, 57.5 being the total. We're seeing the Ducks minus 3.5 point home favorites. Are you liking anything in Oregon on Saturday?
Yeah, well, we did that breakdown of the Oregon-Georgia game 2 weeks ago, Drew, on these panel videos. And, I said along with Steve Merrill in that one that I agreed Georgia were the side in that game, like the Bulldogs minus the points. But I also leaned over in that one as well, expected, obviously, Georgia to carve right through that Oregon defense, which they did. But by the same token, I expected a lot more out of this Oregon offense, 3 total points in that game. Fell short of the total by 3 points as a result. But despite all that, I'm going to trust them to come back and do their part once again here against BYU on Saturday, as I do think we see points in this one. BYU headed the double overtime last week against Baylor. It was a pretty demanding game for them overall, especially that Cougars run defense. Baylor put up 52 rushing attempts on the ground against BYU in that one. That ranked top 10 in the country in terms of most frequent last week. So, this is something actually Brian mentioned last week. That first couple of weeks of the season, at least, fatigue's not all that much of a major concern. But, nonetheless, BYU were really under the cosh for a lot of that game. Baylor with the 8.5 minute possession advantage in that one as well. So, they're facing an offense this week in the Ducks that has one of the country's best third down conversion rates this season. Even against Georgia, they had 21 first downs in that game. Just couldn't convert. So I do see the Ducks being able to put up points in this one against BYU. And by the same token, at the other end, I just can't trust this Oregon defense to stop BYU either. They allowed 11.9 yards per pass attempt against Georgia in week 1. I mean, that's really poor. Obviously Georgia are an elite unit, but only 3 teams in the entire country had a worse overall opponent yards per pass attempt rating against FBS opposition than Oregon did. And, even against Eastern Washington last week, they allowed almost 200 yards of offense to them. So I think both teams will put up points in this one on Saturday. In terms of a side, probably slightly into BYU here. They're the more battle tested of the 2 teams. But yeah, for me, main play will be on the over 57.5. As I don't see their defense being able to really contain the other's offense in this one on Saturday.
Sure, look for points here, Kevin. And Brian, coming to you next, pretty good matchup here. BYU's looked strong so far. Oregon, hey, they had that rough outing against Georgia, but Kevin liking the over. What are you thinking here in Eugene?
Well, all we know about Oregon is they're not as good as Georgia, and they're better than Eastern Washington. I think this is a tough game for them. I know the spot is really good for Oregon playing at home here, but it's taken away a little bit because it's a day game. And Oregon at night, and they've got great fans. It's just a great atmosphere, but this is an afternoon matchup. So I think that kind of favors BYU in that regards. It takes away some of the Oregon home field advantage. I mentioned the spot for BYU. They played that 2 overtime win against Baylor. But this is a veteran team, and they've got, because of the missions for BYU, their players are 2 or 3 years older than these Oregon players, so they can come back after that. And I wouldn't see a letdown at all here because they get excited to play an Oregon team who's gotten a lot better over the last decade or so and are a good quality program. If you take a look at that BYU game, they held a talented Baylor offense, just 2 explosive plays on the entire game, just 3.8 yards per play on the day. BYU and Baylor both played very good defense in that game. I don't think we're going to see that kind of defense here. As Kevin pointed out, I think these are 2 teams, especially this Oregon defense, that I don't trust. And you take a look at Oregon, even against Eastern Washington last week, the Ducks only had an 8% explosive play rate. That's only good for 46th percentile in the entire country for last week. And keep in mind, Eastern Washington themselves had an 8% explosive play rate against Oregon. That's not supposed to happen, even though it was a blowout game. Oregon did not impress me as much as the final score would indicate. And once again, I'm not a big fan of Bo Nix. Didn't like him at his past program. Don't like him here. I like BYU in this matchup. And if you take a look at Oregon, most of the teams they've lost to the last few years have been physical teams. BYU plays a physical brand of defense. They're big on the offensive line. I think BYU wins this game outright.
All right, look towards the dog there with the BYU Cougars. Check out Brian Leonard, just heard him there. Kevin Dolan as well, both at WagerTalk.com. Guys, a good day to do so. Monday, $9 Monday. All plays from all handicappers discounted to just $9. Check it out, WagerTalk.com.